Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our lunch break. This is a conversation that we are having as part of the Las Comatas community, and we're bringing it to you where we gather every weekday at noon, and we are sharing on different topics of interest right now, not only for entrepreneurs, but really for everyone. And we've had over 20 of these sessions so far, and we have talked about everything from astrology to how to keep it together with your children at home while you are working from home, to how to pivot your business. And so today is all about storytelling. And from a branding and marketing standpoint, how we become effective storytellers. And I am so excited to super dig into this topic with you all, because I feel like there's so much going around right now, just like the way people are feeling and how they're stepping up and showing up. And we have three amazing experts with us, which I'm super excited to introduce, who are going to be kind of guiding us through this conversation and sharing their wisdom. So we have Amy Agramonte, who is a designer, entrepreneur, professor, mom, all the things in her fabulous setup. Like, I adore like the jacket and the lights, like you got it down. It's awesome. We have our own Rebecca White, who is a designer and entrepreneur. And we have Senia Marcinko, who is a film enchantress and dream scheduler. I got that right. I love that.
You did.
And so today we are going to kick things off the way we kick off every lunch break, which is something very tried and true in our community and very much reflective of our values. I think now more than ever, and just to have a moment of groundedness to talk about, what are you feeling grateful for today? Like in this moment, what is bringing you joy? What are you feeling grateful for? So who wants to go first?
I will. I am happy, acknowledging, what I call the apocalypse kind of happening outside. I am so happy to have the time inside, spending some slower times with my kids. And then actually, today's topic was brilliant, getting to spend some time with my business and my brand and doing the things that I need to do for me that I always do for my clients and I never have time for. Yeah. So that just things slowing down a little bit, getting outside, like literally every day to take a walk, which I never get to do either. And being still, right? It's a tough thing to carve out being still.
Yes. All amazing things, and we're all doing a lot more of them. So thank you for sharing. Okay, Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm going to feel like I'm repeating everything you just said, Amy, because I'm right there with you. It's been a time definitely to focus on portfolio, which is a challenging thing sometimes for a designer. But I felt like I've had space to think about how am I presenting myself to the world. How do I want to tell the story of some of the work that I've done? And so that has been really great. And I've also taken a ton of time for yoga and meditation, actually at this time, which has been what I need to just kind of stay level. I've been doing a ton of cooking and just playing around with all kinds of stuff in the kitchen. So that's been a creative outlet as well. And that just feels rare and beautiful. So I'm really grateful for all those things.
Awesome. I'm also grateful for being able to work on projects and actually do it, like not just think about it, but
follow through,
yeah, from the idea through the result. And this time has given me that opportunity to like sit down and just go through all the process of creation. So I'm grateful for that.
I think it's been fascinating several weeks into this, how our emotions about it change and evolve, and kind of how we're filling up the time and the space. It feels a lot more settled and grounded in some ways. So I'm happy that you're all having that experience. And so we're going to dive right in. There's so much to talk about when it comes to storytelling. And I think that most people maybe grasp in general terms what we mean by this. But I think that a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners still struggle with exactly how to translate this into their brand, into their businesses, into sales. And so we're going to get into all of that, but certainly kind of putting everything in the context of what we're living and experiencing right now, we are obviously acknowledging that this is an interesting and challenging time for a lot of small businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs. And we would like to kind of kick off this conversation from the perspective of the possibility of this space as a pivot and a shift into something that is more sustainable and grounded, because at the same time that a lot of businesses are having trouble, there are other businesses that are thriving right now. And so understanding that there is a window for all of us to thrive, and this is a moment to kind of shift and pivot into the version of that business, the version of ourselves that gets to thrive in many different circumstances and scenarios. And so like kind of positioning everything in that way, let's come back to the core definition of storytelling. So what would you each define it? Like when I talk about storytelling for your brand and for marketing and for business, like what do you understand by that? Like
I'll jump in. I think for me, this is speaking personally, and I'll reflect on it a little bit too from the way that I speak to my clients and coach my clients, but it's about demonstrating what it is that you do to the world and to your customer or your client. And so finding ways, whether, it can be in a lot of different formats. It could be video, it could be in written form, it can be social media, but finding ways to like visually as well as, verbally and experientially show off what it is that you do and what it is that you offer. And really taking into consideration who's that client, who's that customer, how do I meet them, and how do I connect with them most effectively.
I will say, like, sorry, Amy, do you want to
you're
go?
Good.
Okay. I will say that storytelling is going back to who you are. Like, what is that story that you started and that is been going on with you for whole your life? How are you today in this point? How do you get here? What are the obstacles? How do you, all the things that you pass through until this now moment, until today. Yeah. And that is your story. And that's something that only you know. And if you tell that story, you can connect with the people that you're going to try to engage, because it's that no one else has your story. It's something that belongs to you and that you are going to share because it is what led you through this moment. Yeah. So it is important to realize that we only know our stories, and if we get to show who we are and in a way that why we are doing the thing, why we are doing this business, why we are doing this, with our story, it will engage. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I'll add to these, I mean, these are really great examples and things that I would like to also say. So I teach a class at the university called Marketing for Entrepreneurs, and just ahead of going live, I was telling you that one of the main themes of this class is developing the personal brand, right? And my theory, and I've kind of been proving it, is that if students and people who are learning about their personal brand, if you can brand yourself personally, you can also brand a company. So one of the first exercises that I walk through with my students is I say, okay, what is your 5-word phrase or your 6-word phrase? What is your short phrase that defines kind of who you are? Yeah. And it serves two purposes. One, it sort of crystallizes who you understand yourself to be in the marketplace, but it also is that marketing moment where it jumps off and it gives a creative startup point, right? So I say, hi, my name is Amy and I make things pretty, because I do graphic design. And I encourage my students to start understanding who they really are in this universe, what makes them special. Like Zinnia said, how do you tell your story? Like Rebecca says, who and what do you do? But I encourage them often not to go right to the what do I do? I'm a student. That's not enough of a story. I want them to give us this virtue. If I only say I'm a graphic designer, I'm leaving a lot of my story out. So going deeper and being able to express all those components that make you a special, unique individual in our universe. You know, why are you breathing my air? I ask my students, like, what are you doing here? And what is your special mission? It takes them usually all semester to come to a conclusion. And then I say, great, now it's going to change, because they're in the space of growth and they're moving in their career paths. And same way businesses do also, right? They have to come to that understanding, that core moment of who they are, and then allow themselves to grow as the owner of the business, and then also as the brand grows and develops as well.
Yes. And I'm so excited for us to dig into the nitty gritty of how people can start to wrap their heads around that, and how people can start playing with these concepts. And I think that before we do, I'd love for us to drive home the case for this, right? Like, why is this important, and why is this important now? Where I know that there may be some people watching that are like, I just need to sell. Why are we talking about storytelling? Like, I just need like money in my pocket now. And I think it's so critical that we understand the full scope of how storytelling works and how it's going to help you build a more sustainable business. There was a formula that I've been using, God, for like 5 years now, working with entrepreneurs every time. And it's a magic little formula that said, authenticity plus consistency equals legitimacy in purchase. So that when you show up authentically in telling your story and you do it consistently, people believe what you say, people trust you, and then they buy from you. And so understanding that there's no shortcuts in that formula, that in order to develop that long-term relationship with your customers and to have them connect at a deeper level with you, where what you are sharing and bringing into the world becomes a relevant and consistent part of their lives, you get to tell that authentic story that makes that case, right? So I'd love to kind of hear from you if you have maybe an example or just like a way that you have been able to explain this to your own clients or your students or anyone in the past, in terms of why this matters and why this matters now that people are kind of freaking out about the essentials, you know?
Well,
Yes.
in the case, and Zinnia, I'll pop in real quick and just a last moment I was making. The students right now are actually in a really tough space, right? The economy is sort of like not operating, and we have all these young people wanting to go out and get a job. There are going to be very few of them available. So the ability to tell a story in a way that's engaging and moving will let them stand out amongst their peers who are also very smart and have all kinds of skills, right? So Zinnia,
Yeah, I was going to share 2 stories, like for examples, and it's something that it's I don't know, it's so simple that maybe you can all understand. For example, I don't know if you have seen on Netflix, Self-Made. I just finished it. Yeah.
If you have not seen this, you have to see it. It is the story of Madam C.J. Walker, correct? The first female millionaire in the history of the United States, who happened to be African American, and this happened 100 years ago. Go on.
That's the story. So I didn't know about her. When I watched the series on Netflix, after I ended, immediately, because I connect with her story, what did I do? I went to Google. I Googled her so I can see her real face, not the actor's face. So what was she like? And immediately after that, I Googled, where can I buy if this exists, if the product is available today? And I found out that it is, and it's on Sephora. So I went like on Sephora and I took a look of the product, and oh my God, like, she sold me that story through Netflix, and I connect with her today, and she was in like 1920, like 1910, I don't know. So almost, I don't know, 100 and plus years later, I am connecting with her story, and because of that, I am willing
Another
to
really
buy.
interesting side note about that, it happened like right around the time that we had the last pandemic.
Mm,
So
okay, awesome.
powerful. Yeah.
So yeah, because she sold me her story, and I am willing to buy her product because I relate with her. It's funny, it's like the first time I watch American Idol. What do they do? And this is so basic that you can apply it for your business, I promise you. What do they do on American Idol when we had American Idol? They shared the story of the singer before he went on the stage. So by the time he went on the stage, you're already rooting for him or her. Like you were, please, please sing well. I am rooting for you because I already
I already like you.
Yeah, I really like you. I really connect with your story. I am willing to vote for you because you sold me. You told me that you weren't able to sing for many years, that your parents didn't want you to sing, that you had to travel, that you had to quit your job. So I am on your side now. So for me, storytelling is that getting people on your side. And how do you get people on your side? They're rooting for you. They are almost Googling and clicking on the buy button because they connect with you. And how do they connect with you? Through your story, through who you are, through what you're selling. It's not the product, it's not the benefit, it's not like it is cheaper. You, all of that is cool and you should get that done, but it's the way that you're communicating that message, the way that you're selling, and you're selling through your story. So what's your American Idol story?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Awesome. Thank you. Rebecca, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was thinking today about, you know, personal storytelling, brand storytelling, and precisely what you were asking, Gabby, like, you know, why does this matter right now, at a time when a lot of us are thinking about essentials and you know, needing something to cover next week, not next year. And I was reflecting on that. Why does it matter? And I was just thinking about, you know, when I first moved here to Miami about 5 years ago, and I was new here and I was trying to build relationships, and you know, I showed up to a lot of networking events, and I did some speaking and whatnot. And there were times where it felt like I wasn't gaining traction, you know. But actually now in the last, I want to say 6 months, I'm seeing things develop out of relationships that I built with people 5 and 6 years ago.
Wow.
And so a lot of times I think this storytelling that we do about ourselves, we really have to understand that it's a long game and it's a long-term investment. And so the opportunity that we have right now is to bring something unique, and I don't even want to put the pressure of saying unique. I really want to say more like just bring ourselves, being ourselves, and being who we truly are at this moment, and showing up and showing that. We don't know who that's going to impact, and we don't know who's going to latch onto that, and for whom it might be meaningful in a year, in 2 years. Yeah. And as entrepreneurs, we really do have to maintain that longer term vision, and it's tough, but I think that's where you start to see really magical things happen with storytelling.
That's wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. I think that it really, I think to me, brings it home, and something that I was, even as I was listening to you, like to the extent that like in everybody's responses, you heard a story that like stays with you. That's like, oh, now like I remember Madam C.J. Walker, like, oh, I'm gonna like watch this on Netflix too. Like you answered a question by telling a story, and we were all immediately enchanted. And that's what we're talking about today, right? Like we were all immediately like, oh my God, I want to hear about this person. And there's something also really extra special about watching that show that will really help you understand it, is that there's a pivotal moment where she has this product that she really believes in, but like she's not getting much traction when it comes to sales. And she literally like finds a table at some open market and starts telling her story like loudly. Like I've been feeling like ugly and unappreciated, and like I couldn't there was nothing that was for me in the market, like, and then she's like, how many of you have felt that way before? And like it's literally the blueprint for how we do marketing these days. And you see this woman in like 1918, African-American woman standing in a market, like telling her story. And that is the thing that like brings people to her. It's not like, this is an amazing product and you should buy it. It's like her heart, like open, sharing her truth and sharing her story. And that is something that will always be enchanting and will always be magnetic. Like that is something like that is connected intrinsically to our humanity and how we are and how we show up in the world. So pandemic or not, that will always be something important, right? And so I think like now that we've made this case, okay, so from here, how does somebody who is either in the beginning stages of understanding their story, I find that there's a lot of people who think that they have a complete brand, but they've never really done this exercise of understanding what their story is and how they can tell it. So what are some favorite strategies that you all have, maybe two that you can each share that are really useful, like kind of like how Amy was talking about that like short phrase, right? So like what are some strategies that people are practical and can like start to think through and implement today to start to understand what their story is? So maybe Amy, we start with you.
Sure. I mean, I've heard it, I call it the business card exercise, or we can even talk about billboarding, right? What are those things you could put in a quick glimpse and capture like those most high level pieces of you? But that's just the first piece. Then you have the paragraph behind it. That's your little elevator pitch. And we kind of talk about that, you know, for businesses, talking about trying to get that investor hooked on something. But even for our personal brand, it helps, you know, sort of crystallize, again, using the same word again, who and what we are. So I do encourage that as a first out, you know, space. When I'm working with clients, you know, I am trying to make them think more about, you know, one, who they are as a business owners, but also who their business is really serving and what they mean to the clients that they're working with. And sometimes they really haven't thought about that. Sometimes just asking that sort of simple question makes them pause for a minute. And so we'll sit down and have a therapy session about it and try and figure out, what is that moment? You know, what is your unique value proposition? Like a popular marketing term, what's your space? Not that it has to be extraordinarily different. I think Rebecca, you make a good point. It doesn't have to be completely unique, but it is special to that person, and we don't know who that's going to affect. So stopping and asking that question, I think, is one of the most effective ways to really start digging down and figuring out what that moment is.
Yes. And if somebody has kind of trouble getting to that, like what do you like, I've recommended journaling before, like kind of having like using it as a journal prompt and just like writing whatever comes out and then like coming back to it with a highlighter to see like what pops out at you. Because sometimes people, I think, might have trouble like summarizing that or coming up with that little pitch. Do you have any tips on how they can like sort of work themselves there?
You know, there are a couple of ways that I go about helping them define who they are, right? And like Rebecca mentioned it, we can tell stories like through experiential moments, through words. I tell stories through images sometimes. So it could be, you know, a word dump, like what are all the words that describe you? Don't worry about making phrases, just put some words on paper. But I often, when I'm working with a new client, I'll say, hey, you know what, go grab some images from the internet, wherever you find them. Find some aesthetics that are meaningful and resonate with you, so I can help start developing this brand. Sometimes I'm working with them from the very scratch. Like they may not even have a name, but they know what they want to go, where they want to go and what they want to do, and they need help formulating all those things. So sometimes it's a matter of, you know, finding those attraction pieces or those attraction images and bringing that into our vision board, and then operating from sort of visual space. Sometimes it's an easier way to tell the story.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of a word dump, a brain dump, because I'm speaking about this from a personal perspective. If I pick up my journal and I start writing down, a lot of times I feel like I'm committing to something by like writing in sentences in my journal. But if I have, let's see if I've got one right here. If I have a pad of sticky notes and I just start putting crap like blah, 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 blah on sticky notes, I don't feel like I'm committing to anything, and I feel like I'm able to just get things out on paper and then take a step back and look at kind of like as a cloud. I've got a cloud of things here. What speaks to me? What can I pull from? What are the interconnections? And I use that for myself when I'm trying to work on my portfolio or my personal storytelling. I use it with clients, like in sessions with clients, and I use it when I'm, designing for clients. It's just a way of kind of like democratizing your own ideas, democratizing the ideas of a group of stakeholders. But it allows you to kind of see everything from the, the 10-mile view, and then see what those interconnections are and start to refine from there.
Also, it helps if you don't know who you are, maybe you know who you are not. So you can write down all the things that you don't like, all the things that you're not willing to compromise, all the things that you don't want to show up as. And maybe those things kind of show you, okay, this is not the path. Maybe in the time that I figure out who am I, this is, but I absolutely sure that this is not me. So when you're putting out a content, when you're creating something, you can always go to that and say, okay, this is relate with me or not. And if it goes through the path that you write that you are not, then you know that that doesn't work for you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that, especially like all of these concepts about like kind of starting big and then starting to weed out. And I feel like that's an exercise, Senia, the one that you just talked about, that's one that I use very often when people are stuck. It's like, okay, well, let's just start by what you know for sure. You know for sure that this is a no, right? And oftentimes I think that for those of us that have a little bit more experience, like we've done enough things in our lives and we've seen enough to say like, this is a definite no. But I think like if you're younger and you're starting out, maybe like Amy's students, think about like who turns you off, right? Like when the people that you're watching online, like who are you like, it's not for me. Like I have like such a strong list of people. Actually, like I have a story specifically on that. Like when I started focusing on working with women entrepreneurs specifically, like I was inspired by Gary Vee as to how not to show up. Mm-hmm. Like I've come back around to him now and I can hear him, but he was just so like, in your face about things. And I was like, that is so not my style. But he was incredibly inspirational because in defining that I didn't like how he showed up, I got to define how I showed up in a different way. So like that can be incredibly powerful. And I would say two things that I have also found that are great kind of grounding pieces to the story are defining your brand values and defining how you want to feel in your business. That second one is like definitely used more in like the women entrepreneur space, but I find that they're so powerful because if you have like, these are my values, these are the things that I stand for, like hands down, 3 to 5 words, and you have your the ways that you want to feel, everything gets filtered through that, right? Like everything that I write, okay, so is this elevator pitch, is these colors, is this video, do they match up to my brand values? Do they make me feel the way I want to feel in business and the way I want people to feel when they come across with my business? And that's like such a solid place to begin because you always can sort of map back to that. And so I think like in the context of that, I would love to like start a conversation. And I know there's a bunch of people watching and these women are here for you. So I want to just reiterate, we're about halfway in. Please send your questions because this is your chance. Like you got the experts here, graphic design, marketing, video, whatever you're wondering about, whatever you're concerned with, like we would love for this to be more of a conversation. But I think like as people start sending their questions, I'd love to know, like for each of you, like, is there somebody that you like follow and you really admire how they tell their story, like somebody that you might use as an example sometimes, or just somebody that you just like, wow, like this person really does it right and I'm such a fan? Like if you could tell us like who that is and why.
Oprah.
The queen.
Right?
But so let's dissect it though, like as people who are like kind of wearing that hat right now, what is Oprah's magic? Like how can we learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the storytelling, if we want to go from that context, we've watched her, um, on TV for a really long time, and she was pretty vulnerable and open in her space. So we really got to know who Oprah was, right? We watched her battle weight. We watched her go through, relive childhood trauma. We watched her rise in fame. We watched her go through some legal battles. We've seen her go through and do so many things, and she just keeps persevering, right? I have to imagine she's just a really tough lady, and she's made a lot of business and enterprise, and I'm sure it's not without a lot of sacrifice, and I recognize that's part of the equation as well. But it is inspiring when you see somebody set out, and of course she has, an empire of people, under her and working, but she really, projects persistence, moving in a way where she feels she has strong beliefs in the things that she's doing. You know, now she's even going into this another form of lifestyle as well with her food brand. So she keeps just growing and evolving and innovating in different ways, but it still feels very much Oprah. It hasn't, she developed who she was, and she kept building on that. She had herself, and she had a good team, making sure that everything was synergistic. It didn't go in all 85 different directions. It was really about who she was at the core, and built it up. So yeah, the queen.
And that's such a great example, because I've had really interesting conversations with a lot of people lately who maybe that have been like shaken out of this moment, that they had a business and they realize that they get to build a brand off of themselves, off of who they are. So a lot of them are just like going to be like, I'm an artist now, and this might be what I'm doing today, but you're going to love me. So what I'm doing tomorrow is also going to be cool. And then like next year too, like that people buy into not just your project, but to you, the human. And I think like Oprah is the absolute queen with that, because she's done so many different things over the years, but like I would buy whatever that woman was selling because I adore her. So who are some other examples?
I can talk about, so there's a woman who, this is not a celebrity public figure. Her name's Ashley Axios. She was the creative director for the digital space of the White House during the Obama administration. And she is, she's a powerhouse. She's a young woman. She is currently serving as like the national or incoming board president for the professional association I'm part of. But a few years ago, she was served as a mentor for me, and I got to know her and watch her leadership style and the way that she interacted with people, just super respectful, very, I want to say like low key, but you knew that like she had it.
Yeah, almost like a subtle power.
Mm-hmm. And yet, knowing where she came from, knowing that she had been part of the White House, she's a powerful woman. But yet she can go, she goes karaoke with us, she goes dancing with us. She's right there with her people. And so seeing like that different style of leadership, and then watching her grow in her career and her leadership trajectory now to be at the helm of a national organization, but still showing up in that same way. Yeah. Still being the person that goes dancing and, late night eats. So she is someone that I really admire as a designer and also as a leader. And I am inspired to see different flavors of leadership, to see somebody who's, fits in that like millennial vibe, who is taking on really serious roles in the world and bringing that different kind of intelligence and different kind of leadership to bear in super, super cool, super powerful situations.
Awesome. And so I'm hearing, like with Oprah, bringing your entire truth, even the parts that are scary and the parts that are painful, into what you're doing and into your community. And I'm also hearing that despite whatever success you may have, really being with your community and being a part of your community, like not kind of having this, like I'm above, the thing, but like, here's what I like, standing in your power, and yes, like being with people.
Yeah.
So Senia, what example do you have? Somebody that you look up to that is a great storyteller?
Yeah, I would like to name a friend of mine. She's also Venezuelan. She has just been picked up by the World Economic Forum as one of the top young business owners. And her name is Verónica Ruiz del Viso. And she owns a marketing agency. And I would like to name her because she has a so powerful story, and she is being able to tell that story through all the years, and now she's here in United States. She has been here for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. She has been able to work with Gary Vee and to work with Universal Studios. So the way that she tells her story and the way that she shares what she knows with the community is amazing. So yeah, I would like to name her because she's also an inspiration for me. I get to work with her, and it's awesome.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love, like, there's so many different examples, and it's a reminder, like, I would love to urge everybody watching to think for yourself, like, who is, or who are, maybe I would say even 5 people that you can come up with that you love following them. You love what they're about. You love how they show up. And because I feel like if you start thinking about that a little bit more critically, like thinking about like, okay, like what is it about this person that I really admire? And like, what is it about the way that they show up? And what is it about like their attitude and their way and their words? And like, and you'll start to see some themes that I think will clue you into how you can show up, because you wouldn't be noticing that if that wasn't something that was also in you. And so acknowledging that within yourself, I think is really powerful. Like for me, there's this woman, her name is Justina Blakeney, and I'm such a fan of hers. She is like, she's an interior designer. She wrote an amazing book on, at this point, she's an interior designer, but she's like, she's creating a mini empire. Like her products are at Target. She has this very like bohemian vibe. And I've been following her for years. So like one of the things that's really cool that will happen to everyone who jumps on this train is that you're going to have people like follow along in your career and kind of like cheer you on with every success. And then she has this way about her where she's just so human. Like a lot of people in that space are very much like, and this is my perfect castle. What, like it's, you know, like they kind of have that vibe that's like untouchable. But like really she, like one of my favorite newsletters that she's ever sent out is like, this is what my house really looks like before I style it for you guys. And it was like, the like squatty potty in the toilet and the towel over the bed and like you would never see another interior designer taking pictures like that, but that's what makes her her. And I've had a chance to meet her now. Like we like DM each other on Instagram sometimes, and I just feel like the most special person in the world when that happens. So like think about those people. I think Karina from who's watching said that she loves Maria Shriver. So like that's a super powerful lady who has put her heart on the line and her experiences completely out there. And you see that authenticity in telling your story is really powerful. And so we do have a question from Patty Colon. And the question is, what is your process for narrowing or for choosing the story you want to tell in the moment? I think like Patty feels a little overwhelmed because there's so many different stories that she can tell about herself. So does anyone have any tips on this one?
Okay, I can go. Okay, I will go with 2 examples. One, when you are sitting in front of your TV and you are taking your remote control, and suddenly you're trying to change the channel or the volume and it doesn't work. What do? I will say that no one tells you to do this, but you like crash the remote control to see if it just wakes up, right? And no one tell us to do that. We just know. I don't know. It's just we do it. Or if we are on a line in the supermarket and it's a very long line, and then we kind of, okay, maybe I should change the line. And then you know that if you change the one that you were before, it's gonna be faster than the one you're changing. Why? We don't know. It's just something that we do. So I would like to call those things that, oh my God.
Hi, Kitty.
Hello, Kitty. This
Okay,
is
that was my
cat
cat.
bomb. I love it. Go ahead.
Things I wasn't expecting that. Okay. So when you
calling out
connect,
those two things.
yeah, so with those two things, those are insights, and those are things that are connect with us in a universal way, no matter what, no matter where we were born, no matter what we learned, no matter what happened with us. We know that those things and those things connect with us. So I will say that for Patty, if you have so many stories, then you get to choose which one of those you cannot share all of them in one content. So you just pick one and try to figure it out, what is that insight that will connect with everyone that will hear it or watch it or read it. What is that in your story? What's that point that will connect with everyone? So if you get to like understand that, then the message that you're going to share, it will engage with the people. And also know that not every message will engage with everyone. So you have to pick, okay, this story will sell this product and it will go through this audience. And then you get to choose this other story or this other way. Maybe it's the same story, but telling in a different way will engage with this audience and will sell this product. So when you organize that and you figure out what your insights are, then you kind of plan and organize all the message and all the communications that you're sharing.
Perfect. Does anyone have anything to add? Any other tips on narrowing it down?
Sure. I think that sometimes when we start developing our story or stories, one thing that can emerge is a mantra or more than one mantra. And when you can kind of get all of those stories together and you find that there's this recurring theme perhaps, or there's the insight like Xenia refers to, it might lead to a mantra, and that mantra might be an easy jumping off point to start the rest of the story. And it might depend upon who you're talking to, right? But if you have like this one center where you start from and all your stories extend from that, then, this is a lesson and that's an insight that could be easy to use in any given moment.
Yes, I love that. Do you have an example of a mantra that like people can have? Or
I mean, I have some shallow ones that I use, and I'll say, pink makes everything better. So I'll swathe some pink in some areas, and we'll doctor it up a bit, but we'll go deeper and stuff. But I like to say that a lot. I'll tease my students. I've told them, hey, if you write in a pink pen, you get extra credit on your exams. They're like, what? But there's always like 2 kids who have a pink pen just in case, because they know we've talked about pink. And it's just a matter of like finding that moment. Where is the optimism in any of these moments? Well, where's this sort of magical moment and whatever is going on, and swathe some pink over it, and maybe you'll find it. It's simple, but there's other things that I go by, but that's just a fun one that I like to use.
That's great. That's great. So a general universal insight and mantras. I love that. Rebecca, do you have another tip?
Yeah. I would say I tend to be a pretty analytical person. So one thing that really helps me when I'm trying to figure out an angle on what I'm saying, what I'm going to communicate, or what a client should be saying or communicating, is, that brain dump exercise I talked about before, getting everything out there, and allowing myself space and time to kind of let these things percolate and see what are the patterns and what are the interconnections. Those things that are connected to one another. I think we've all mentioned that in some form or another, but those interconnections and those patterns are really, really important to me in deciding maybe what collection of things we're going to talk about, or from what angle we're going to speak about those things. So for me, it's really important to take a step back and allow myself reflection time. Depending on what it is, that might be a couple of hours, it might be a couple of days, but give yourself space to look at the patterns.
I love that, the interconnectedness of it all. And for me, like the tip that the exercise that people tend to really connect with that I always give is I challenge people to write 12 things that they love to talk about. Like write it in a list. And some of these women, some of the women here have done it. Like it's really like if you had to write them almost as like the titles of blogs that you would write, like what are 12 things that you just like love to talk about that you're just like, when somebody puts that topic, like you just get into it. And when you step back and you find that you have 12, well, if you send a monthly newsletter, there's your year. Like you have now the year of things to talk about. And you could certainly decide that you're going to talk about something else in another moment, but it's almost like this reaffirmation, because I think a lot of people get stuck with, oh, like, I don't have anything to say, or like, who wants to listen to me, or like, what do I have to share? And I think like that might be like a next topic that we can start to talk about is like, where do people get blocked with storytelling? Like, where do people, and I also want to point out that Lourdes said when we're talking about universal insights, it's that vulnerability is universal. And I think that that's definitely been a theme of our conversation. So showing up vulnerably, showing up with your truth. And this is for men and women. It's captivating. Like people get to see like your full story, but kind of coming back to where people get blocked, right? I'm sure you have all had students, clients, acquaintances, or maybe even yourselves. Like you've had a moment where you feel yourself blocked from telling your own story, or you see people that do. How do you help people move through? Like first, what are those blocks and how have you helped people move through them?
I can talk about that. I think that a lot of times when we come up against blocks, I have learned to think about those as resistance, meaning you're pushing into something that's really important, and you start to feel that like, oh, I can't. You're probably tapping into something that is really important and really the direction that you need to be going in. So rather than seeing that and saying, oh my God, no, I can't. That's actually the moment where you go, oh, wow, this is telling me something. I'm feeling really about this. So
I'm so thrilled to hear you say that, Rebecca. Like so thrilled.
I mean, and I'm saying this because, you know, I've been through this. Gabby knows. Like it's a clue. It's kind of a clue. It's like, here you go. This is something you need to delve into. And so recognizing that for what it is and calling it what it is, I think is really helpful. And in my case, a lot of times I have to take the space from it. If I'm pushing through something that is just really killing me, I might take a day. I might take half a day and come back to it with some fresh perspective. But that is really a key insight for me. Is like, what am I trying to push away, and then like, oh yeah, actually I need to dive into this. I need to face this with courage.
Totally. Yeah, like what happens if you don't judge the block, right? If you welcome it as part of the creative process and you just keep like breathing and moving through it, I think that's where the magic is. Any other ideas or like things? Because I think a lot of people have a lot of blocks, because this is even though we could be good at business, quote unquote, this concept is still relatively new. The concept of telling like a more personal story for your business. Even though I think like we said with the original example with Madam CJ Walker, for 100, like we've been doing this for over 100 years in terms of how we sell through stories. But this concept of like it becoming more universal for all of us to show up in this way with all of these platforms that are at our disposal right now, it's still relatively new, and there's a lot of people that are that feel that resistance to it. So for Sania and Amy, how has that played out for you?
Well, I think that the personal story is as important for your business as it is for you, because
Yes.
it
Oh,
helps guide
thank you.
in
Preach.
yeah.
Yes.
And when we have ourselves, like, take care of yourself first so you can take care of everybody around you. Take care of your personal brand first so you can take care and let that feed into your big brand. It's an important, it's like a building block. It's the established stone on which you can pile all the other stones on once you have that one main pillar really, really strong. I think a block can come, of course, if you have these moments where you're like, I have to do something hard, I'm not ready yet, I'm not ready yet. And the longer you wait, the bigger that wall gets, the harder that stone is. So it has to be moving forward. But the other thing that can be complicating is that there's just so much. Like, we feel like you're walking into a tangled moment of all kinds of crazy chaos and stuff. And you just have to be still and like get to the minute, like go back to the very beginning. I give my clients an exercise, a personal branding worksheet, and it makes them go through and ask some pivotal moments and questions. Who are you? Where are you right now? Where do you want to be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the road? And it's like, I didn't think about this. All right, so what does it look like? You know, and you start writing a few of these things down, and it takes a minute to get there. You might take a day, you might need to walk away from it and take a day break. Like Rebecca said, I need a day. I can't like think about these things too much. But when you start opening up that path that feels really hard to go through and giving yourself that moment of clarity, it's a big release, right? It removes a lot of obstacles. Clarity, I think, removes a lot of obstacles.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will say, remember that when you were in school and you were writing a paper or doing some homework and you didn't remember something, before Google, we went through the books. So we went and grab a book and grab a manual and kind of read what we didn't know or what we didn't remember at the time, and then we go back and do the homework. So this applies to your personal brand or your business brand. When you started, you did all this amazing, beautiful exercise, and you put out there why you started, what are your products, what are you selling, why, in what language. So that kind of is your manual. Even if you plan your social media, I think you have to plan it, and you say, okay, this is my objectives, this is my goals, this is what I am sharing with people. So when you're stuck and you're not creative, because we cannot be creative every day, but we have to work every day. So go back to that manual and read those things that you wrote. And then you will find that inspiration that you are not finding right here you cannot do your homework if you don't read what you wrote, if you don't go back to the manual. And one thing that always helped me is connect with your emotion. If you don't know what to say, at least try to know how do you want people to feel when you put out that content, when you send that email, when you share that story. And the emotion that you want to share is going to clear the view for you and put on the words and put up the product and put up whatever that you're selling. So try to think of that. First of all your manual, all those point words that you were saying before, all those that map that you put out there, and then the emotion that connects with that. And it will guide you. It will guide you through. Mm-hmm.
And I think what I'm hearing from everyone, there's almost like a general theme about like, these are some exercises that you can work through. Some of them are going to stay steady in your life, right? Like if you define your brand values, there's a good chance those are just going to stick around for a long time. But some of them are just kind of more prompts to help you like move through feeling blocked, and that there is value in keeping these things handy and visible, because they are things that you get to keep coming back to. And the thing that kind of bringing it full circle, because we were talking about how this is a long game. And I remember like reading early on in my career, learning that there's two reasons that people tend to fail with content marketing. The first reason is that they only use content to sell. not to establish a relationship. And the second is that they give up too soon. And so it's the example that I would always share is like you don't walk into a party and shake someone's hand and tell them to buy your online course, like the second thing you say, right? Like you probably get to know that person and you find out what they're interested in and you share some experiences, and then they share something that triggers something in you that they might be interested in that course that you created. So you get to go through that same level of relationship building with your people, and that understanding that it's not a failure if the content marketing doesn't convert right away, right? Like you are building a relationship, and you might not realize that the thing that you're calling a failure, the next time you connect with that person, they're going to buy. And you've been like reframing it in the wrong way. And so like understanding that this work that we're doing is for the long term, is for the long haul. We have one final question that maybe we can have one person answer because we're running out of time. But of course, Virginia, master storyteller that she is asking, are there any specific themes or archetypes that you gravitate towards, either for telling your own stories or for helping clients figure out theirs? So themes or archetypes? I don't know if that's like...
Yeah, I can relate with Virginia because archetypes is my thing.
And I just want to chime in. Sania and her agency have helped us as a community come up with our archetypes for our business, and it's been like a magical framework. So go on.
Yeah, in terms of that, is those universal insights. What we do at the Magus Films is we translate that universal insights into some archetypes, and we use Carl Gustav Jung psychology to translate that. So we'll give you your unique mix of archetypes, and in that way you can communicate all your communications. We'll have a guide, we'll have a manual, and when you don't know what to say, when you're doubting yourself, you can go back to that, and all your communications will go through with that archetype in the way that you want to engage and in the way that you're going to say it. So, and I explain this very, very easy. When you think about a mother, what do you think? Probably you think someone that nurtures you, someone that takes care of you, someone that is always there for you. And that three things that I just said will connect with mothers anywhere in the universe. So even if you don't have that mother, that's your goal mother.
Yeah.
Or that's the mother that you want to be. If you,
how you want to mother yourself.
Exactly. If I say to you, what do you think if you think about a warrior? You will think probably someone fearless, someone that comes out of their comfort zone, someone that's ready to go. Yeah. And those things are universal. So when we dive into who you are, when we kind of unlock what is in there, what is your core, it will translate in a mix of archetypes that will give you those characteristics that I just said, and in a way you will have it there so you can connect with people.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I feel like we could totally do a part 2 of this because this is such a juicy topic and there's so much to dig into, but I want to say just like our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for sharing so openly and sharing your expertise. I think like people walked out of here with very specific and clear next steps that they can try for themselves. This is an excellent time to dive into this stuff, you guys. Like you have the time. So many people want to do this and they keep putting it off. We have the time now. So for those of us who have the time, this is a wonderful opportunity to develop your story and your brand. And so please connect. We have the Instagrams, and so for you to connect with each one of these incredible women. So thank you so much, Amy, Rebecca, and Sania. And if you would like to contribute to our community, we have a link to PayPal right on the post. And we, just a reminder that we are opening our doors for the Las Comadres community on May 4th again. So if anybody watching is interested in learning more or in being part of us and who we are and what we do, check us out. And we're also going to share in the link in the bio. We have a dance party tonight, yeah. It is going to be an 80s and 90s dance party. If you are quarantining alone, come. If you are quarantining with like a partner, kids, pets, bring them all. And like, we're going to have so much fun. It's 80s and 90s. It's going to be a blast. We're opening up several events to the broader community so that you can experience what we have to offer here and who we are, and see if you want to join us. But totally open to the public. Please come. We'll share the link. And thanks again, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye.